Hey guys, welcome back to episode 6 of the Integrated Fitness Space podcast. We're currently in the middle of an awesome conversation here with Dr. Gabrielle Fundaro, who's a big-time player in the field of gut health. But we've been getting personal in a different kind of way with this episode, as Gabby shares her experience with burnout in the midst of a successful career. She lets us in on how it felt to completely crash and how she began to use self-reflection and new boundaries to dig herself out of the rut. She's got some huge gems of wisdom to offer us, as life's toughest moments are often the gateway to our greatest learning and ultimately growth. In part 2 of this episode, we touch on how emotions manifest in the body, the importance of getting deep down to core beliefs, and making space for more joy. Yes, please. Alrighty, let's pop back in to episode 6.
So talking about the body, are we okay? Like to pivot a little bit, we got to ask her at least a little bit about gut health. Otherwise, I mean, how will they actually know that Dr. Fundaro is here? It's like going for a walk without wearing your Fitbit. Did you really go for the walk? You didn't really.
Yeah.
So I think, Jen, did you want to ask her a little bit about nutrition or stress?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was recently talking with a client about, I actually met them in Mexico where I am now, and they were kind of on vacation, total easy breezy life, right? Still working actually remotely here, but the place that I am, it's very low key and relaxed. And so I ended up meeting this person here and we connected, and now they're my client. Very cool. They're back in the States and working remotely with me. And we were diving a little bit into nutrition with them, and they were saying that there are certain foods they can't eat in their normal life that they were able to eat here when they were more relaxed, right? That were not causing issues. Certain like carby things, maybe different like things with gluten. And maybe it's the source, right? We're in a different country. Maybe the food source is slightly different. But that led me to the inquiry, the question of what do you know about how our stress state and maybe how we're eating, if we're eating in a stressed way, or if I'm just kind of more stressed in general, how does that affect my digestion or my gut health in the moment or kind of more overall? Do you have any insight on that?
Yes. And that's such a great point. So I can tie in a little bit of diet culture into this as well. So that's called the vacation effect. And it can lead people to believe that grains in other parts of the world are somehow different and superior, and like it's got to be a gluten thing, and the gluten in this area of the world is different, and that's actually not the case. So there are very few cultivars, like different types of wheat and whatnot, and so what you get overseas is going to be pretty much identical to what you're going to get here in the States. But the difference is, yes, you're on vacation when you're overseas. So you're sleeping better. You're maybe getting some more physical activity, like gentle physical activity, because you're walking a lot more, more relaxed. You're probably eating more slowly. So all of the psychological stress, which is associated with worsening GI symptoms, has really subsided. And so you have fewer GI symptoms. But then you come back to the States or wherever you are, and you go back to, your normal kind of stressful, hectic life, and you're eating so much faster, and you're not sleeping as well. And you're having the psychological stress that can absolutely increase your GI distress. And then you get people in the fitness industry telling you like, oh, well, it's because, like the grains here are inferior to the grains overseas. And we get this very like, it's a very healthist and elitist way of looking at food that you have to avoid whatever
or like romanticizing the bread in Europe versus the bread here or whatever.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is a real thing that like people will feel better when they're on vacation, and then like just kind of apply.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
What about the impacts of like stress and grief, like what we had gone through, or burnout, right? Like grief, I feel like is totally different than burnout. And you and I had them kind of going on simultaneously.
Yeah. Wow.
How does that impact your gut? Did you notice any changes in your stomach or how you were feeling physically? I feel a lot of like sadness. I'll feel it in my stomach.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you think about like the physical manifestations of our emotions, and people
Mm-hmm.
say like gut feeling or like broken
Mm-hmm.
heart. Like you kind of feel an uncomfortable sensation in different parts of the body, and we associate that with, or even a pleasant feeling in different parts of the body, and we associate that with different emotions. And of course, like emotions and grief and depression and the difficult and joyous emotions that we experience are going to influence people's behaviors in different ways, and people engage with their emotions in different ways. And when I was really struggling at the beginning of the year, initially I really was detached from the sensations of in my body, with the
Mm.
exception of like just extreme despair. It's the only thing I
Mm.
felt. I
Wow.
felt no hunger, I felt no appetite, I felt
Wow.
no real desire to do anything. All I wanted to do was I just wanted to sleep, because then I could be unconscious and not have to
Mm-hmm.
like be
Mm.
awake for this. It felt
Yeah.
like, when we get a surgery, we're put under so that we don't feel the
Mm-hmm.
surgery, because it would be so intensely painful. We can't do that with our emotions, right? I can't be
Mm.
like, can you put me in a coma for the next 3 weeks, please? Because I can't handle this. So we
Yeah.
have to be there with it. And it can be so overpowering. If you were going through surgery and someone was cutting your arm open, you're not going to be like, I could really use a snack right
Mm.
now. Your attention is going to be fully focused on
Shit,
like
that's true.
like the scalpel in your arm. So that's how it manifested.
It's not funny.
Yeah, I know it's like funny, but it's like dark humor, which is my
Yeah, 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 yeah. Dark humor.
but that's how it manifested for me. I felt
Mm.
nothing, and I really wasn't eating. I couldn't bring myself to do anything. I mean, for a solid week I was just on the couch. There was no training. There was maybe I showered a couple times, but even that felt so difficult. It was like I just barely have the energy to like turn the water on and stand here for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who live with a mood disorder, I mean, because I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and moderate depression when I was still in grad school, and then more recently re-diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and ADHD. And so I have kind of another unique, like I'm on this spectrum of neurodivergence, and having grown up without that diagnosis until I was 32 or 33. That
Mm.
explained a lot of things looking back in hindsight, and
Wow.
that can influence how we connect with our emotions, and how much and our response to feeling rejected. So people with ADHD and other forms of neurodivergence can experience rejection sensitive dysphoria. And so where some people might feel, oh man, that really hurts. Like I'm sad about this breakup. That's so painful. A person experiencing RSD will have an overwhelming sense of despair that like they just can't come out from under. Like it's an amplified response.
Mm.
um so it was hard to do anything at all. And then on the other hand, there are some people that do feel like they feel hungrier, or they might have an appetite, or they might crave certain foods that bring them emotional comfort. And
Mm-hmm.
that's totally valid too. Like everyone's experience is going to be very different. But I think that like the largest change is probably the difference in our perception of like the physical sensations that we would maybe normally sense. Like, oh, it's been several hours since I've eaten my last meal and I'm hungry, and I'm perceiving the signals that come from physiologically. My stomach isn't being stretched by food anymore, my blood sugar is low, and there are hormones that are being released, and my brain is picking that signal up and saying, time to eat. But when I am under the weight of despair and grief and longing, those sensations just are too quiet in comparison with the rest of the emotions.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that with us. I'm so
So,
grateful
can
that
I
you
ask
just
one
shared
more
that.
question? Sorry.
Oh, I wasn't ending. I was just
Okay,
thanking
okay,
her. That was
okay.
very
Yeah, yeah.
personal. I'm
I
very
agree.
honored that you
Yeah,
would share
yeah.
that.
You're right.
Go ahead, Jen.
I just love this. So okay. So as a culture, there's obviously a lot of talk about gut health and just digestive issues and all of this. And I wonder how much of that should be like hyper focused on like what I'm eating. I need this kind of lettuce. I need that thing over here. Da, da, da. Is this adding more stress? Or should we start to pivot more towards like our well-being and our more mental, emotional health and trying to, get ourselves more in a situation as we felt on vacation, right? Should we be moving our well-being in this direction versus just like maintaining the crazy life and trying to figure out how to solve the gut health from that point?
Yes.
I'm not
It's
a
like
PhD, but I say yes.
yeah. It's like the meme with like the tub of water that's leaking and the guy just like slaps a piece of duct tape on it. And we're
Yeah.
like, like all these other issues, and we're just like, oh, it must be my gut health. I'm gonna take a probiotic, right?
Right, exactly.
But it's
And
like,
all the people making money on these probiotics and all these things.
yes,
Oh
yes.
man.
And not to say, I mean, probiotics do have applications. Like sometimes we go on vacation and then we end up with traveler's diarrhea and like everything's hunky dory, but we don't want to be pooping our brains out for hours a day. And so,
Sure.
a probiotic and some Imodium can be really helpful in that case. And like, there really is legitimately nothing else going on. It's just, oh, I've ingested some pathogen and now I'm sick from it. But like in real life, most of the time, the struggles that we're having in our relationship with food and our body image aren't separate from the struggles that we have in the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
I bet if you were to take, because I did this, I really took stock. I like really analyzed, like, what are the patterns in my relationships with people? And how do those manifest in my relationships with my body and with food and in my career?
Wow.
If you think you're not enough, if you think you owe everyone to be here, you're going to act like that with your food. You're going to act like that with your body, with your partner, with your boss, with your colleagues.
Amen.
Yeah. So
Oh
you
my
really
God.
have to get to the bottom of that and say, like, what is really driving me to try to be better than I am right now? What's wrong with me right now? What am I trying to fix? Do I have to like make myself more attractive so that my partner will not leave me, I won't be abandoned? Do I have to say yes to everything at work so that I don't get fired? These behaviors are like a symptom of our core beliefs.
Yeah.
And that's something that I work on with clients a lot. Like when we do like the cognitive behavioral coaching aspect of comprehensive coaching, we're trying to get to like within our scope, what's the core belief behind the way that behind the reason that you feel like trapped counting macros? Like, why are you afraid to not count macros anymore? Oh, it's because you don't trust yourself. You think that if I don't count macros, then I'm just going to eat everything and it's all going to be cake, and then something bad is going to happen. And usually we assume that it's going to be, oh, I'm going to gain weight, and that's like one of the worst things that could ever happen to me, because I believe because I've internalized weight stigma and fat phobia, and I think that I'm already not enough, and I certainly would be less than not enough if I didn't look perfect. So, like we have to get to the bottom of that before we can start to really change, see lasting change with our food relationship and our body image, and start to focus a lot more on tuning into ourselves and trusting ourselves. So, if you want to be able to go out to dinner and like find something on the menu that is going to digest well and you're going to enjoy it, and then you're going to eat until you're satisfied, and maybe the plate's going to be clean and maybe not. You have to be able to trust yourself to do that first. And you're not going to be able to trust yourself if you still think I'm out of control, I'm not enough, and I need to be told what to do or I'm going to do the wrong thing.
That's the basement layer. We have to. You said, talking about not enough. I'm a crazy journaler, not crazy, but I like to journal every single day. And one of the sentences that I started writing when I realized what I was going through was I was struggling with perfectionism, which was directly linked to shame. And then I had this grief and I was just drowning. I started writing at the bottom of my entry every day, I am enough as I am in this moment right now, period, end of story. Because it doesn't matter who loves me, who doesn't love me.
Can you say that again?
Good.
Slower.
I am enough as I am in this moment right now. Yes. And that changed a lot for me, because we are like, the perfectionism will burn me out. Chasing, you had said one point, in one of our conversations, there was no certification, there was no PhD, there was no degree, there was no nothing. Nothing was going to stop this burnout. It didn't, like it. I didn't see it coming. There was nothing. It was happening. And in hindsight, you know, the perfectionism is so painful to me, like chasing everything, trying to fill myself up. It's so painful. And I will cut off both my arms and legs trying to achieve. I won't recognize my own boundaries. I will be disconnected from my bodily sensations and what feels right and what feels wrong. And all of a sudden, everything gets real confusing. Now, granted, we're at the other end. Well, maybe not at the other end, but we're somewhere on the spectrum of grief.
You never know what's coming.
And burnout. But I've learned a lot. And I'm like, I think all of us do learn a lot. Like some of these, I think it's safe to say we're all big readers, but I don't think that the things that we're referring to or talking about in the context we're talking about them in could be learned any other way.
Absolutely.
But something that you just said about, you know, the Band-Aid on the watering can, and like these are the things that we have to trust ourselves first. I really think there's a big basement layer. Like people could come to us and say, I want to lose weight. There's like 5 whys. Like you got to keep uncovering why. And then we get to the basement and we realize, bro, your sump pump is broken. Your foundation is all cracky. Your windows, it doesn't matter what window treatments you have hanging on your windows because there's a leak in the basement. Yeah. So, you know, thank you for saying that. Like, and coming from you, like that was what I was excited about today, to have her on here, Jen, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because to hear from Dr. Fundaro, some of these, I know I'm going back and forth between Gabby and Dr. Fundaro. Totally one is for me, one is for the listener.
Which is which?
I don't know. But to hear from you,
it's cool.
I feel like that's like weighty. Like even Gabby is saying, we have to trust yourself first. Yeah. Like before, she's not saying, take this probiotic and you will feel better. And sometimes you do take a probiotic, but if the issue is that you're completely stressed all the time and that you're sad and that you're running towards perfection because you don't know how wonderful you are in the skin you're in, that's very important.
Well, and something I just thought of when you were saying that too is like, this is a hopefully a beautiful message that we're delivering, that it's almost like, okay, I'm like really stressed. My life is crazy. My boundaries are not there. I'm stressed and I have a gut issue. If I could take a pill to just fix the gut issue, I'm still dealing with all this shit out here, right? But we're saying, wait a minute. There is a state of well-being that is fucking better than this craziness, right? There is a state of well-being where you feel aligned with yourself. You have access to joy and all of the beautiful emotions and the hard ones of life, right? And if we move towards that, that might also resolve your gut issue, right? But like focusing on this like greater state of well-being, those identity things, the things in the basement, you know?
You may need a probiotic too.
Yes.
But you can't get
We're not dissing them.
No.
Yes. Exactly. You know, one of the things that I also have a therapist, she's fantastic. And one of the things that I was talking to her about the other day was in my singledom, you know, and I have so much more free time and time to focus on myself. And I realized that like a large portion of my life was devoted to taking care of my little sister when I was growing up and being resilient and trying to survive in a childhood that was really tumultuous and difficult. And then it was getting, you know, oh, now it's academics. I have to get straight A's so that I can get into college. And then when I was in college, I have to get more straight A's. And then I'm going to go on to my PhD and I need to do all of this so that I can support myself. And I don't want to end up, you know, like my mother was. And so I'm focused on that. And then it was, oh, okay. And now I'm going to learn how to do relationships. And then I focused on how do I do the relationships? And there were just short periods of time in my life when I was not focused on someone else or my eating disorder or my body dysmorphia. Only short periods of time where I focused in on myself and thought, oh, what's going to bring me joy right now?
Yes.
Right? You know, and like, those are the times in my life that I think back on, and I'm like, man, that was a great time. Yes. And so as I was talking to my therapist the other day, I said, you know, I've really gotten into some board games lately. It's been really fun. And it's not something I used to do. And And I've got these puzzles in my closet. And I was like, I don't know why I didn't do those. And I thought, oh wait, no, I do know why. Because in the past, like and not even on a long past, like in recent years, I didn't want to do sedentary activities because I was worried that I would
Mm.
not, I like being sedentary to me meant I wasn't going to be able to eat it as much as I wanted to. And it was a
Mm.
dangerous thing for me to do. My eating
Yeah.
disorder told me, don't sit still for too long. So I stopped drawing, which is something I was actually really talented in when I was a kid. And I
Mm.
stopped, playing video games, which is something that I used to
Mm.
love doing, like role playing games. And I just didn't pursue other things like, yeah, board games or puzzles or something. And so I was realizing, gosh, lately it seems like, I love lifting. It is my number one. Like if these other things are like, casual relationships, I am married to lifting. I love it.
Yes. Yes.
Same thing with
Yes.
hiking.
Please and thank you.
But yeah, so I love that. And I'm not going to stop doing that. And also, I want to have more hobbies than just that. So, like, if I
Yeah.
Yes.
do meet a
Right.
person and they're like, what are you into? I could be like, I love to lift and I love to hike. And I also really like board games and puzzles and I draw. And like maybe
Yes.
I pursue drawing,
Yes.
and I get
Yes.
really good at that. And that becomes some
Yes.
other career option. But I
Yes.
just thought, like,
Yes.
wow, how much
That's
time
awesome.
did that take away from me? Did that
Right.
eating disorder steal from
Right.
me? How small it made my life. And like
Mm.
now how much more
Right.
freedom I have to do other things and become a more like well-rounded, dynamic, complex individual. And that's like really
Yeah, man.
in my mind what it's about. Like we grow and we learn, we become more complex, we become interested in new things. And that's where we can get like more joy out of life.
Yeah.
It's like it's not
Yes.
that
More
my
joy.
my only joy choices aren't going to the gym or going on a hike, because hiking in
Right.
Arizona is not happening a couple months out of the year. Like it's not joyful when it's 110 degrees out. So yeah, and that's a thing that I've seen with clients as well, is that like as they start to move away from the really like this kind of myopic focus on like changing their body and counting macros
Right.
all the
Right. Right.
time, they're like, I have a lot of time now because I just kind of like eat when I feel hungry until I'm not hungry, or sometimes I just eat because we're out to dinner and it's enjoyable food, and then I
Mm.
like go on about my day and whatever other business I have. And so now I'm traveling more, or I'm getting into hobbies or art or whatever it is. And that is such a beautiful
Mm.
thing. Like that's where I feel that I'm the most, I can practice the most compassion and I can help relieve the most suffering, because
Mm.
like we can, bring in so much, help people bring so much joy back into their lives.
Yes.
It's
Yes. Yes.
creating an
Yes.
active leisure lifestyle. You've got like a
Amen.
faceted, multifaceted, very rich
Mhm.
life. We're not
Yeah.
just looking to be smaller or have the perfect
Mhm.
relationship to fill us up. Look at all
Mhm.
these other things that we can do to fill us up. Alberto, my coach is Alberto Nunez, and he always talks about diversifying your happiness portfolio,
I love
which
that.
is I love that. So that's
Mhm.
what you're talking about. Dude, puzzles are
Yeah.
cool. I don't care what anybody says.
Yes. Well, and I think this goes back to the question I asked about what are we boundarying, right? And I
Mhm.
think we can be boundarying our joy, right? Like you could be like,
For joy,
actually,
right?
I'm not gonna say yes to this thing over here because I want to do a puzzle tonight, right? Like that's a thing. Okay, everyone listening, like boundary your joy, protect it, go after it. More joy. We
Mhm.
deserve it, right? Like joy is not, it's not this like frivolous thing. You can find joy in the little things too. A board game, that's simple, that's nice, that's sweet. You can find joy in a cup of tea. But more of those moments.
And
I
it doesn't
love that
make us
you
soft to want joy. Like,
right.
Yeah, that's a good point too. No pain,
Mhm.
no gain. Where's joy in that? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes, exactly. Oh man, yeah, I love that. Like, yes, you can say no to commitments. And the thing that the one of the most challenging skills that I have learned is to say, and I got this, I want to credit Nidra Tawwab and her book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace, because this is
Hmm.
this is the first and only time that I have ever seen someone model how to say, I know that I committed to this, but I will not be able to finish it. Either at
mm,
all, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore, or I'm going to need more time. I
Yeah.
never gave myself permission to do that because I was like, I said I was going to get it done at this
Mm-hmm.
time. And if I don't, I'm a failure. I'm not allowed to do that. This person's going to be disappointed in me. No, not anymore. Now I'm like, if I need more time, I just need more time. And the worst thing that could happen is that that person says, well, then we're going to have to ask someone else to do it. Great. It's not on my plate anymore, you know? And like,
right.
And it's also, and, you know, on the other hand, it's realizing there's another great quote. I can't remember what it was from, but like when we drop the ball, some are rubber and some are glass. And we have to be able to discern which is which. And we do that by thinking like at the end of my life, what am I going to feel more satisfied with? Is it going to be that I didn't go out with, you know, for like my aunt's birthday or something because I needed to finish this work project and then like she was really sad that I wasn't there? No,
Right.
I'm going to feel much better saying, hey, I'm going to need more time on this project and then go out with my aunt because like most things are not life or death except for the end of our lives.
Yeah.
And that's where it really counts, right?
Thank you for bringing it there. That is the integrated human shit, as Jess would say.
Did I tell you how amazing she was going to be? I was so excited to have this conversation.
This has been such a good conversation. I am so stoked about how this went down.
I hope that people are going to test out saying, I know I committed to this, but I'm not going to be able to do it. Or I'm not going to be able to finish it in time or whatever it is. And you know what? I have done that so many times because this year it didn't stop. The punches kept coming. I'd be like, oh, that sucked and that was terrible, but I'm okay now. So I'm going to come back to work. And then it'll be another thing. And like, that also sucked and that was terrible. And by the end of it, I was like, I can't, there's so many things that have happened and I'm so far behind. And I noticed myself trying to ramp up and get things done. And I was like, oh, I'm doing it again. And I'm not gonna,
good catch.
I've set a boundary with myself there and said, hey self, like we know, like I don't want to be burnt out again. We need to feel, we need to feel that sense of peace. And so I sent out a lot of emails saying, hey, this is taking a lot longer than I had anticipated. I'm gonna need more time. Sometimes I don't know how much time. And people are like, that's okay. Or here's the specific deadline. And then I can operate under that. But I always have the permission to say, like, I put this on my plate and I'm not going to be able to clean my plate this time. So I'm going to say, I'm going to give that one back to you. I'm like, and saying no and realizing that no doesn't mean no forever. It means no, not right now, not this time, maybe in the future. Because another thing that I've started to do is I've set a boundary with myself. I need to be compensated for what I'm doing if it's something like a webinar. And that's difficult to do because that means I have to say no to a lot of things, but it also means like, just like you said, I'm saying yes to other things. I'm saying yes to myself. I'm putting myself in a safer space because now I know that I have less on my plate. And what I do have on my plate is going to be able to be used to invest in my safety and my future. And so, you know, we need to like be kind to ourselves in that way with like a kind firmness, you know, of our boundaries to say like, it's really, really important that I say no to this thing or that I ask for more time. It's really important that I don't operate under the assumption that I owe people. I really, really need to hold myself accountable. I need to say like, no, right now I'm going to have to say no. In the future, I could say yes, but right now I'm going to say no. Or maybe I just say, I'll think about it. Because like we don't owe people an answer right away either. I don't have to say yes or no right now. And so those tools, I mean, like in a really practical way, like those phrases, just, oh, I need some time to think about it, can be used in so many ways. And it's been so helpful for me to take the time that I need to think about something that is probably significant.
Yeah. And feel into it. You know, what is your body telling you about it?
Exactly. Yeah.
I've used that, by the way. You've taught me that a lot. You don't owe anyone anything. So when my kids will come to me with different situations that they're in looking for guidance, I have repeated that to them. You don't owe anyone anything. You're fine.
Yes.
So just, you know, you're trickling down to the kids.
That's wonderful. I love it.
I thought you were going to say like, I thought it was going to be like a parenting moment where you're like, I don't owe anything to my kids. Like,
no, please. No. That's a lot more therapy for me.
No. I mean, it's a different scenario. You kind of do you have a responsibility to them. We'll just leave it
Right.
there.
Well, yeah, and that's why I say like I've replaced like owe, because to me saying I owe someone means I am in a debt to this person.
Yes.
Well, what
Sure.
has happened that has put, why am I in a debt to this person? Like what do they have? What do they have on me, you know? But to say like I appreciate this person, I value this person or this opportunity, to say this person or this opportunity, they are important to me. That's very different, because that is an abundance. That's saying I have this thing, or this person is in my life, not that I am in a deficit, or that they have an advantage over me. I don't want to create a hierarchy here of
Right.
like me down here and then everyone else is up here and I owe them something. It's,
Right.
oh my gosh, look at the opportunities that I have. This is wonderful. What a great problem to have, to say that I have to say no to some things because I just can't do it all, or that there are so many people in my life that come to me because they know that I'm so capable, and they think that I give good advice or something like that, and they've come to me and said like, hey, I just need to like unload and vent to you because I'm having a hard day, and you're such a kind person, you listen really well. And I love that and I appreciate that. And also I don't owe them listening to them when I don't have it in myself to give them that space and bandwidth, because
Right.
sometimes I'm like, I'm having a day too, and like right now I can't take on this stuff that you have, but like hopefully in the future let's like go to coffee or something in a few days and unload on each other, you know. And so thinking about it like that, I think, is a way that we can feel safer giving ourselves permission to say no, or not right now, or let me think about it.
Valuable lessons you wouldn't have learned any other way. You know, you talk about reframing, just kick it back. As awful as your worst day was, you have a new awareness now that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life, that will enhance you for the rest of your life. You can't unlearn. You've learned. You can't unlearn it. You've got it now. Like you said, even when you catch yourself moving down the trajectory, you're like, oh, wait a minute, hang on, girl. That's a little too close for comfort, you know?
Oh,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I really want, we are taking up a lot of your time. And I'm so grateful. You don't understand. If I should have videotaped myself dancing around this morning to Lainey Wilson, like just so grateful. You have been such an instrumental person in my life and continue to be. You modeled all this for me. Like even in your setting boundaries, you're not speaking to me, but I'm watching you do it. I know she's not posting on social media. That means I know she's taking care of herself. I know if I message you on a weekend on Instagram, there's an automatic return message. All of that is mentoring to me. That's teaching me. And it's taught me to be a better coach, to be a better mother. And I'm so grateful today. Like I get to go to bed tonight having checked a major thing off my list.
Oh,
Like,
that's so
no, I'm
sweet.
serious, dude. If I could find an old journal when I
I
started
love it.
following Gabby or Eric or anybody, and
Yes.
like,
Yes.
I like really like this is amazing to me. And the fact that you are willing to, and I want to thank you so much for stepping outside of the box and your comfort zone and really sharing a different part of yourself.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this is not a level that you generally share on, at least not that I've seen on a podcast or out there. And so thank you very much for getting personal and taking the risk with us today.
Yes.
What advice would you give, or what would you say to anyone who is on the precipice of where you were? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like right when that freaking wave is about to hit. What would advice you give them? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. If I would say, so my guess is probably if they were at the precipice of where I was, they're going to have to fall first before they realize I need some advice. So if that has happened, like you're not a failure, and you're not weak, and it's okay to not be the resilient one all the time. Like it is okay to have been emotionally and psychologically injured and to need to take time to recover and to take as much time as you need. And when you are starting the process of healing, really ask yourself, like, what is making me believe this? What is behind this belief? What is behind the thing that I'm about to do right now? Like, why do I want to do this thing? Because just the way you said earlier, you said, you know, we things get really confusing. And I had really reached a point in my life where I was like, what is guiding me? Like, why am I deciding these things? And it was so funny because I had a previous therapist, we were talking about like relationship things. And I was like, like in terms of academics, like I did that and the career is all set, but interpersonal relationships and stuff with myself and boundaries, so confusing. She said, it sounds like you don't know the rules. And I was like, I don't, because I never set any. And like, I was letting other people set the rules. You get to set your rules. And if you don't set your own rules, life's going to be super confusing because you're going to be like, what am I supposed to do now? There's no one here to tell me what to do. And I'm so confused. Right. That's where you start setting rules. And that's where you start setting your boundaries and your standards for yourself.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Autonomy. Really good. Thank you again. Gabby, if people want to find you, to reach out to you for your like literal wealth of knowledge and wisdom on a lot of stuff, where can they find you? They can find me on Instagram at Vitamin PhD. And as you pointed out, not on the weekends. So that's a boundary I set long. And then that came from, maybe 3-4 years ago, I worked 7 days a week. And the person that I was dating at the time was begging me to like take one day off so we could like go do something. And I was like, I have no days off. I can't take any days off. And our compromise was I would take one day off a week, like one weekend day. And now I'm like, where was that coming from? So Saturdays and Sundays, if I feel inspired, I work, but I've got my automated message. I don't do emails on the weekend. So know that I value you reaching out and I appreciate everyone who reaches out. And also, I'm often not there on the weekends, sometimes even during the week, but so Vitamin PhD, on Instagram is the fastest way, or you can email me, at vitaminphdnutrition@gmail.com. And we'll link everything in the show notes too. Jen, did you have anything you wanted to say to Gabby before we let her go? This was like the best.
Yeah, it was great. Really good conversation. I think this is definitely, Jess and I, our vibe to just be here, to be real. Really, I think this has helped us. This is our opening season and we're just kind of getting really clear on our mission still. And I think this feels really true and real. And, we really want to bring wellness to people, well-being, and that includes mental, emotional, physical, all of it. And so I'm so grateful for this conversation. Thank you. And I hope we'll talk again sometime.
I love that. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening and vibing with us today in this integrated fitness space. If you connected with this particular episode and you want to take it even one step further, head over to our podcast page where we provided some reflection, questions, and actions that are unique to this episode. These are intended to help you dig a little bit deeper, sit, simmer, and marinate with some bits and pieces that maybe stood out to you. We want to help you move a little bit more toward action in your life. If something clicked, we highly recommend you exploring it just a little bit further. And if you happen to connect with our mission and you're enjoying this podcast, please share it however you decide to share good things. This will help us reach and help more awesome humans like you. You can also support us by leaving a review on our podcast page. We look forward to sharing a new episode with you every other Wednesday. And of course, you can always subscribe to our podcast so that you don't miss a beat. Until next time.